Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the GreeneScene Podcast. We've got a very interesting topic today and some wonderful guests with us. I'm Shelly Brown, and our co-host Dolly Throckmorton is here.
Hello.
GreeneScene Magazine editor Bret Moore is here.
Hello.
And we have with us Mike Belding and Brian Sokol, who is a board member for the Carmichaels School District. And Mike recently wrote an article that you all read in the GreeneScene Magazine this month about school consolidation. And so that's the topic that we're going to enjoy conversing on today, and maybe learning some things and just finding out what we may be facing in the future here in Greene County. Sound good, huh?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a much needed topic to be discussed. I think it's a very controversial topic for a lot of people in Greene County, and all of us can understand why, but it is definitely needed.
Yeah.
The conversation needs to get started.
The conversation is needed now.
Yes.
I think the earlier and the more people have time to comprehend and think about the different impacts and different justifications and problems that may come up with such a move. And that's what I really liked about your article, Mike. I thought it was very clear and easy to understand. And of course, it's happening all over and has happened before. But I liked that you presented kind of how it happens, or what's necessary to prepare for it to happen, and then what are the concerns and what are the positives.
Right, exactly.
So
yeah, I think, well, since I can remember, having grown up here and graduated from high school in the early 80s, the population decline was a catalyst for the conversation of school consolidation. And I left for 30 years, served in the military, lived all over the country, traveled all over the world, and came back, and that's still a conversation, right? So the intent of the article was to lay out not the arguments of whether we should do it or not, but what is the established process to go through. It's already in statute in the legislature of how two school districts that are side by side would come together and evaluate that, right? So it starts with a local conversation. The why, I think we know, right? We have a declining population. School districts with fewer students get fewer money, right?
Right.
So they can offer fewer opportunities and amenities to the students. Everything from the athletic field to the number of foreign languages you can offer declines with the student population and funding. So in order to be fiscally responsible, add opportunities to our student body, right? Increase the opportunities, whether it's academic, athletic, travel opportunities, all those things get bundled into funding and the funding that's available. So I think it's an important topic, but at the basic level, everybody has to understand what the process is, because all the conversations don't mean anything if you're going down the wrong road.
right, that makes
Exactly.
sense. Yeah.
So when we're talking about this shrinking population, and I don't know if anybody here has some actual numbers. I mean, I'm with you in that I graduated in the early 80s. I had 240 some people in my graduating class. That was from Waynesburg Central High School. That is at least cut in half, if not more at this time. Right. And I think, Bret, maybe you had some numbers for graduates within the entire Greene County.
This is the first year that there were fewer than 300 students that graduated from the 5 high schools in Greene County.
Wow.
Right. So you're looking at 5 high schools graduating what my class in the early 80s almost graduated in one class. Right? Not that much more, really.
Right.
So that's obvious, right? As you're saying, the declining population. So I know in your article, for people that some of our listeners that maybe didn't listen to that article or read that article, that this isn't a process where we finish out the school year, we decide in the summer we're going to consolidate, and it happens in the fall. This is a fairly lengthy process, correct?
Right. And I think, a tenement to how hard it is, since 1990, only one school district in the Commonwealth has successfully accomplished merger. So there's a lot of talk, and we're not alone with decreasing populations and struggling with funding and all those other things in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But because only the demonstrated success is very small compared to those who would like to try to do that.
Right. Was that Albert Gallatin?
Oh, that was
that's a different
actually
school
that was
district?
Central Valley.
That was Central Valley.
And that
Okay,
would have
I was
been-
trying to think about Albert Gallatin when that
That was
consolidation.
1986.
86. I knew that when I graduated from high school, it wasn't, but it was not long after that they consolidated. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So outlined in the statute I mentioned earlier, there's a process, and I would say the administrative tools are available, right? There's a checklist. I think it's 14 pages long, that those adjoining school district directors and the boards would go through simultaneously and look at the pros and cons of merging those two side-by-side school districts. And I would encourage, and I think at the end of the article, before people start having this conversation, particularly in social media, the back and forth, they need to understand what the process is and pull those documents. And there's a second document that I reference at the end of there, and be self-educate on that discussion so that we're just not wasting energy, time,
Speculating about
intent,
things that aren't even part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
energy, right, and all those other things, and going down the wrong path.
Right. So when you say side-by-side school districts, just for listeners, I mean, in my mind, I'm kind of thinking, well, Waynesburg or Central Greene and West Greene, even though they're really not side-by-side, they would be the closest. And then comparing Carmichaels, Jefferson, Mapletown as another district. Is that kind of where you're going with that? Or
So they have to be, you have to make a contiguous consolidated school district. So the
Okay.
original borders have to touch one another, right?
Okay.
And that. So from my perspective, and it's just a generic observation, geographically, West Greene is isolated by distance.
Right. Well,
Right?
yes.
I mean, it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense
it's
to bus people.
250 square miles. they cover.
I mean, even within their school district,
Right.
distance is an issue.
Right.
As far as just getting to the school district they're in now, where some of those students live, right?
Right. So if we just say, in the end, we want to have 3 geographic areas in Greene County that represent school entities, right? So West Greene is one. Central Greene, you have I-79 as a central transportation corridor. You can get all your students in and out relatively quickly because of the transportation corridor that's available. On the eastern side of the county, you have 3 school districts lined up, north and south, one in the center, which would be the consolidation point in as a practical idea for myself, and you move Jefferson south and you move Mapletown north. And now you have 3 areas geographically separated by distinct transportation requirements, right? Large area out in West Greene, you really can't come east. You have a north and south corridor in Central Greene, and then you have this merger consolidation opportunity in eastern Greene County. But on the consolidation continuum, make all of those one county school district,
Right.
one superintendent, one staff, one contracting company, one transportation, not a company, but a contract, right? You
Sure.
can keep your diverse transportation companies and so forth, but consolidate the administrative overhead that appears to be costly. And then in that plan that we're currently discussing, you would alleviate 2 school district facility sets, right?
Right.
All the buildings that belong to Southeastern Greene and all the buildings that belong to Jefferson, and use the Carmichaels facility. That would be my first approach on a swag as to, hey, let's make this efficient,
Right.
transportation-wise and fiscally.
You had mentioned Albert Gallatin, and that was 3 school districts that were
Right.
merged. That was Fairchance and German and Albert Gallatin. And the square miles for that district was about 150, which is almost the exact same measurement for Jefferson, Carmichaels, and Mapletown.
Right.
Yeah, and I know we've had those conversations in Carmichaels too. The process takes forever. It would truly take a long time. So I know Central Greene, Carmichaels, and Jefferson have just passed in their board meetings to start looking at joining busing services.
Okay.
I know Southeastern Greene was left out of that because I guess they just had a brand new contract and it wasn't feasible for them, but once it would come up. And I think that's the answer, is to start sharing these services and, splitting this cost out throughout the district and throughout the county, which will truly save a lot of money. And at that point, it'll make consolidation a much easier process whenever you're only dealing with one maintenance manager for the 5 schools, whenever you're dealing with one superintendent. I mean, you look at Can and Mac, they have one superintendent and have 30 times the children we have. You know what I mean? So it's not, I don't think county that has 5 schools that graduate on average, let's say 70 students a school, need 5 superintendents of schools at a total burden of roughly $170,000 a superintendent.
A pop,
I think
right,
would be a
right.
total burden on that.
Yes,
That makes sense.
it does. I mean,
It's
you
a
almost
lot
like
of money to be spent, and then you start talking about the administration that goes with them. Everybody has a business manager. Everybody has a maintenance manager. Everybody
curriculum
has
coordinator.
Curriculum. It's a lot of burden on the taxpayers for what are they getting out of it. I mean,
Exactly.
we can have that conversation too at another day.
Yes,
about
that's a whole.
What is the
yes.
actual result that our children are getting for having these small classrooms?
Right.
Oh.
Exactly. I mean, I think, and I'm sure, Bret, because you're a retired school teacher from the McGuffey School District, I'm sure a lot of people's concerns are the reduction of staff and people worrying about losing their
Lost
jobs.
jobs.
Teacher
obviously.
contracts and how
Teacher
you-
contracts. And
yes.
every school district has their own contract, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a lot to deal with too. But even managing all of that is a big job when you're doing 5
Different.
contracts when you could be doing 1 contract.
But it's typically the same representative from Passio or whoever does the bargaining on that side of it. I mean, it's the same woman that bargains all of the school districts in Greene County.
okay,
So,
okay.
I mean,
I
she's
wasn't
doing
sure.
every contract on the teacher's side on the bargaining units.
So the economic benefits are pretty clear in a lot of ways, as you can see by joining services, sharing costs on things that are being. I started to say triplicated, right? But it's 5 times.
It's
right
5
now.
times, right,
So
right.
I don't know what that is. 5-located.
I don't know. I don't know, Bret. That'd be your answer.
Quintuple, I don't know.
Quints.
Anyway,
I don't know.
There are benefits, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's also, this is a very emotional topic for people. It is obviously anything deals
The
with their
slogan
kids
for
is,
Carmichaels is once a mic, always a mic.
There
Now
you
you're gonna
go.
take it away.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a good one to start with. I mean, we're talking about your mascot. I mean, everybody they identify with that all their lives.
Yeah.
So that's something that we have to forfeit when we consolidate. It's one of the emotional things.
Yeah,
One
and
of
I
the
know we
concerns.
reached out, one of our board members reached out to the state, and we were talking about this earlier, was called the state, asked about consolidation, what the process was, basically gave this. First question out of their mouth, have you picked a colors or a mascot? Because if you haven't, we're not going to talk to you. Because it's the number one reason why people don't consolidate schools. They can't agree on this simple topic.
Yeah.
Because everybody
Wow.
wants to be a Maple, everybody wants to be a Rocket or a Pioneer, or it's the way it is, and that's how they grew up. And you grew up hating the neighboring school, which is a shame because there's only 30,000 of us or so in the county. I mean, we all know each other.
Well, we know that Abergallatin was Tri-Valley for 5 years, and their colors were black and white, and they were the Griffins. Maybe that's why.
They were happy with their
Yes.
consolidation.
Everybody got something better.
Yes.
So
yes.
so what was Waynesburg Central now? What schools?
Mount Morris was Mount Morris High School until 1963,
Okay.
Okay.
And then
and they were the Blackhawks
it joined with
Blackhawks.
Waynesburg.
in '63.
The
yes.
two of them?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Well, it's Greene County, so I think it would have to be dark
Well,
green
there's
and
still
black
birds,
would have
right?
to be the colors, right?
And West Greene didn't become
So-
West Greene until late '50s.
Okay.
I mean, there was Center Township and Wind Ridge High School. We even have one guy who's 100 who went to Nineveh High School at this point.
He's
So-
100.
He's 100.
In its own way, I mean, there has been some
It's already
consolidation.
happened.
It's already happened.
Yeah.
Right? The Blackhawks are no more. So now
Panthers
they're
are no more.
Right. So
And for the same reasons, actually.
Same reasons,
The
right.
same reasons because it became too difficult and too not affordable.
Absolutely.
To do it 3 times over or 4 or 5 times over.
Right, and increases in technology. So when you go back through the history of school districts in Pennsylvania, the early establishment of school districts was predicated on how far a student would have to travel.
Right.
And that was by horse,
Yeah.
right? So we're not traveling very far, but we may have 5,000 school districts in the Commonwealth, and now we're down to 500. We can travel better. We have travel corridors. We have Zoom capability. We have cyber capability. All of those distant obstacles have been lessened,
gone
if
by
not
the way.
removed in some cases. But, going back to the mascot, there's nothing harder to kill than a high school mascot.
No.
And generationally, people have grown up wearing their Letterman's jackets, and their sons and daughters get the same thing, whether they play football or volleyball or so forth. So you just have to start over, like the state said when they called up there. And part of that checklist, part of that coordination between two school boards is, who are we going to be in the future? And we're not so far apart that we don't have something in common, right? Maybe they become the East Green Cardinals or something. I don't know. You just pick something that people can get along with. And the benefit is everybody can look forward rather than keep beating the history up.
Yes.
And, why are we like this? How did we get here? Why are the schools not have enough money? The student population is declining.
And I think the conversation that doesn't ever take place, that nobody wants to admit in the back of their minds, is, well, maybe my child's not going to be the best football player anymore. Maybe he won't make the football team. Maybe they won't be the top cheerleader. Won't they? You know what I mean? You're going to now be competing against all these other schools, and, maybe you're not going to make the football team, but it's going to make you a stronger person for it.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think in my mind, a lot of the consolidation of the sports has already been happening. I mean, my daughter played, she's 33. She'll be 33. The girls' soccer team is already consolidated. She played with girls from West Greene, Carmichaels, Jefferson, Mapletown. That was already happening.
Didn't that
they
happen
were coming there
with
for
wrestling
practice.
too in Eastern Green? Didn't Jefferson and
maybe.
Carmichaels?
I know
think?
Carmichaels got rid of their program.
Yeah.
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 And I don't know if maybe the boys soccer was doing that too. I'm not sure. But, that was already happening. And it was no problem, except, they had to travel for practice. Really, the games didn't really matter because, you're traveling anyway for away games.
Jeff Morgan's best wrestlers recently have been from Carmichaels.
That's what I was. Yeah.
So I agree that, and I mean, how many people from the county are getting Division I football scholarships? I'd love to know. I mean,
It's got it on less than one hand.
yes, exactly.
Right.
So
And
you're aiming for something. I mean, that's probably not out there.
I'm guessing here, but I can only assume that the worst player at Cannon Mac is better than the best player at most of our schools. I think it's a fair statement. Not because of any other reason than they had to play to the level of their competition.
Right.
You're only going to
Absolutely.
get as good as your competition will allow you to get.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's why we don't have Division I prospects coming out of Greene County.
Right. And I mean, and so what is everybody doing? And I mean, as you look around, and Bret, you've already talked about this and about, these competitive sports teams outside. They're not, through the school district. So these cup teams, my daughter played on a cup soccer team. So you're going all over the place to play on your regular team, within your school district. You're playing on your traveling team. You're playing on your cup team. You're going all these
There's
different
lots
places.
of opportunities out there.
And anyway, right? If it was consolidated, to me, you would have a better opportunity to draw in better coaching, specialized coaching. I mean, wouldn't you? If you're not spending it in 5 different places?
I would assume, and I see this being on the board at Carmichaels, is if there's an issue with a sport, I'll have 400 people come to a meeting. If there's an issue that grades are low, nobody's there.
Yeah.
And we've just done the same thing here. We've taken consolidation of schools, first focus, we went to athletics.
Yeah.
Where's the academics in this? That's
Yes.
where the focus needs to be.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
don't care how many football players are. I don't care what their field looks like. What I care about is, are we graduating smart children?
Educated children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Educated children that can go on and be productive citizens. That's what we really want.
Yeah, it really is
right?
primary, yeah.
I mean, that really
That's
is
the whole
primary,
goal
yeah.
of
Right.
the high school, the
school.
school district. Yeah.
And we were supposed to mention this in the beginning, we didn't, but Brian Sokol is here as himself, and he is not representing the opinion of the Carmichaels School Board.
Thank
He
you
wanted to
very
make that
much.
very
I need to
clear.
make that perfectly
He
clear.
is here as himself.
You mentioned test scores. Central Valley's test scores actually went up after the consolidation.
It would make sense.
And I think back to the point about, competition on an athletic field, the same thing happens in the classroom. When you put more children together, they're more competitive and they're going to move up on the achievement scale to keep up with their peers, right? If you're the smartest kid of 4, you may be, and then you get put in a group of 20, you may still be number 4.
Right.
I mean, you just don't know until you get that competition level and everything comes out.
So,
Right.
just as like a devil's advocate thing, people, though, you hear that's another complaint or concern that people, when discussion on consolidation comes, is how much more or better small classrooms are where teachers can give individual attention. Now, let's hear.
I don't think there's any evidence to substantiate that in any way, shape, or form. We continue to see population loss. Our test scores in the proficiency continue to be well below the state average. So I don't see any correlation between the two myself.
Okay.
And you're not laying off teachers. I mean, you're going to keep the ratio relatively the same.
So you're really ratio of student to teachers.
Right. It's more administration, transportation savings. I don't think there's going to be a mass layoff of.
The transportation, that's a really interesting
Yeah,
one, too.
because that's a huge
huge
expense for the
Yes,
school
it is.
district. I'm like, my goodness.
But
I mean,
like towards teachers. So Shelly mentioned, this is not a quick process. I mean, it may take you 2 years to go through the 14-page checklist before you talk to the state for approval, right? So you can attrite senior people when the formula or the answers start showing up as to what numbers look like, and whether it's contracts or teachers or custodians or whatever, over time, because you have time to adjust to that, you just let those individuals attrite through transfer or retirement, so you don't
Right.
have this huge mass layoff, and I wouldn't expect that in the end. This is a 3 to 5 year process.
Right.
Right,
And I think that's
exactly.
very important. I mean,
Yes.
you're right. Not only is it necessary, but it is what makes it palatable to those that are going through it.
And the other thing you want to think about, too, is that we need each board to approve this. True. So now we need 5 members of each individual board to approve it. And then, again, knowing Carmichael's better, we just took out a huge loan to do the renovations at our school. Does Mapletown want to take on that burden? Does West Greene? I mean, those are conversations that need to be a part of this. There's going to be debt that certain schools carry that other schools may not be doing at the time.
Right.
right.
So these are concerns.
All concerns. And that's why I said this is a long process. But if we can start sharing services, we can still do significant savings. And knowing how government works, I don't think there's going to be any millage decreases anytime soon. But we can at least stop the bleeding and leave them where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't imagine a school saying, "Hey, we're going to lower it 2 mils." I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No, I don't think that ever happens.
No, we never seem to be able to go backwards.
Yeah,
no,
that never happens.
it's always up,
So
up.
we brought up when we were talking earlier, I think before we began, some ideas too about why the population or enrollment has decreased and will continue to decrease, or what is that. Now this is a little separate from the consolidation
Right.
topic, but as a county, what are we doing? Well, what was the school you talked about that South Fayette, was it?
South Fayette,
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
talking about, yes.
Talk about that example.
Well, I obviously wasn't at South Fayette when they ran their business plan, but it's my understanding that they ran infrastructure first. You build it, they will come. So they ran sewer lines, they ran water lines, and then Pittsburgh grew out into that area. When I was in school, South Fayette was a small school that the floor you were going to fall through on the basketball court. Now it's a huge 6A school. And if we just look down the road, we have Morgantown bursting at the seams. Why can't we be where they go.
Yeah.
There's no reason for us not to be. If you're not building infrastructure and people aren't moving here, and then you can bring in cyber schools on top of that, people are going to cyber. There's a lot of reasons kids are not in our schools anymore.
And there are maybe ways that we can address that.
A lot of them.
Okay. And separate here from consolidation.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I believe we have an upcoming podcast where we're going to talk about that. And Mike, you had contributed an article to the GreeneScene called...
The title was Greene County's Predicted Preventable Economic Crisis. It's a two-part series.
So we can look forward to a whole nother conversation on that topic, which plays into this because it all comes down to money.
Right. Yes, it absolutely does come all down to money, I think. You know, no matter, everybody wants to, you know, grow up with that being your mascot or your school, but then again, you want the best education, you want the best sports if you can get them, all these different things that go along with a school district, but it all boils down to money.
Okay.
And is there enough? And if there's not, you got to make some changes.
Right. So that's a whole nother conversation. And we invite you, the listeners, to contact us with your thoughts on both this the consolidation issue that we talked about and that process. Whether you have questions, whether you have information, comments, opinion, whatever it is, you're welcome to contact us. And you can email I'll not even ask Bret. You can email info@GreeneSceneMagazine.com.
I was going to say that.
You were, of course.
You were not.
So I want to thank you, Dolly, and thank
Yes,
you, Bret,
thank
for
you.
being here, and certainly our wonderful guests, Brian Sokol and Mike Belding. Thank you
You're welcome.
for being here. You've got a lot to contribute, and we really appreciate that.
Yes. And we look forward to hearing more from you on the next podcast.
There you go. Stay tuned.